The day I won the lottery was like something out of a dream. I still remember the thrill that coursed through me as I watched the numbers align on the screen, each one a ticket to a life beyond my wildest imagination. My name is Amanda Grassi, and that fateful day changed the course of my existence forever. Growing up in a modest neighborhood with humble beginnings, the idea of wealth seemed like an unattainable fantasy. My parents worked tirelessly to provide for our family, and while we lacked material luxuries, we were rich in love and laughter. Despite the financial struggles, they instilled in me the values of hard work, integrity, and gratitude. When the news broke that I had won the lottery jackpot, the world seemed to spin on its axis. Suddenly, I was thrust into a whirlwind of excitement as reporters clamored for interviews and well-wishers flooded my inbox with congratulatory messages. Overnight, I went from being an ordinary young woman to a symbol of hope and possibility. With newfound wealth at my disposal, I embarked on a journey to fulfill every dream I had ever dared to imagine. I bought a sprawling mansion with panoramic views of the city skyline, complete with a fleet of luxury cars that gleamed in the sunlight. Designer wardrobes filled my closets, and I indulged in extravagant vacations to exotic destinations around the globe. Yet, amidst the opulence and extravagance, there was a hollow emptiness that gnawed at my soul. The more I surrounded myself with material possessions, the more disconnected I felt from the essence of who I was. The laughter of my childhood seemed like a distant echo, drowned out by the cacophony of excess. I threw lavish parties where champagne flowed like water and the guest list read like a who's who of the elite. Yet, in the midst of the glittering soirees, I found myself longing for the simplicity of quiet evenings spent with loved ones, gathered around a table laden with home-cooked meals and shared stories. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the novelty of wealth began to wear thin. The mansion that once felt like a palace now felt like a gilded cage, trapping me in a world of superficiality and excess. I yearned for purpose, for meaning beyond the confines of material wealth. In a desperate bid to find fulfillment, I turned to philanthropy, hoping that giving back would fill the void that money could not. I donated to charitable causes, funded scholarships for underprivileged students, and volunteered at local shelters. Yet, even as I poured my resources into making a difference, I couldn't shake the feeling of disillusionment that lingered like a shadow. It was during a trip to a remote village in a far-flung corner of the world that the truth finally dawned on me. As I witnessed the joy and resilience of the people who lived with so little, I realized that happiness wasn't measured in zeros on a bank statement or possessions amassed. It was found in the simple moments of human connection, in acts of kindness and compassion that transcended wealth and status. With a heavy heart and a newfound clarity, I made the decision to let go of the trappings of wealth that had ensnared me in their glittering embrace. I sold the mansion, the cars, the designer clothes, and donated the proceeds to causes close to my heart. In their place, I reclaimed the simplicity that had once defined my existence, surrounding myself with the people and experiences that brought me true joy. As I sit here now, in a cozy apartment overlooking a bustling city street, I am filled with a sense of peace that eluded me in the days of opulence. I may no longer be the girl who won the lottery, but I am something far greater. I am Amanda Grassi, a woman who has found happiness not in the wealth she possesses, but in the richness of her heart and the beauty of the world around her. Story 2. It began like any other ordinary day. The sun rose, birds chirped, and I dragged myself out of bed, ready to face another mundane shift at the diner where I worked. Little did I know, fate had something extraordinary in store for me. My name is Sophia Reynolds, and this is the story of how winning the lottery turned my world upside down, only for me to find my true self in the chaos that ensued. As I stood behind the counter, taking orders and refilling coffee cups, a regular customer handed me a lottery ticket with a knowing smile. "Good luck, Sophia," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. I chuckled, not expecting much, and tucked the ticket into my apron pocket. Later that evening, as I sat in my tiny apartment counting my meager tips, I remembered the ticket. With a shrug, I retrieved it from my pocket and decided to check the numbers. My heart skipped a beat as I watched the digits align on the screen. I had won the jackpot. The news hit me like a thunderbolt, leaving me breathless and dizzy with disbelief. I stared at the screen in shock, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what had just happened. I was suddenly thrust into a world of unimaginable wealth, a world where anything seemed possible. In the days that followed, my life became a whirlwind of excitement and opportunity. I quit my job at the diner, packed my bags, and moved into a luxurious penthouse in the heart of the city. I traded in my old car for a sleek, shiny sports car, and indulged in shopping sprees at high-end boutiques. I traveled the world, checking off destinations from my bucket list like the Caribbean, France, and Dubai. At first, it felt like I was living in a fairy tale, a fantasy world where every wish was granted and every dream came true. But as the novelty wore off and reality set in, I began to realize that money couldn't buy happiness. No matter how many designer clothes I bought or exotic vacations I took, there was still something missing, something that money couldn't touch. I found myself surrounded by people who were drawn to my wealth, not to me as a person. They lavished me with attention and flattery, but it felt hollow and insincere. I longed for genuine connections, friendships built on trust, loyalty, and mutual respect. In my quest to live the life of my dreams, I had lost sight of who I truly was. I had become a distortion of myself, chasing after the superficial pleasure of wealth while neglecting the things that truly mattered: family, friendship, and authenticity. It was during a chance encounter with an old friend from my hometown that the truth finally hit me like a ton of bricks. As we sat together in a cozy cafe, reminiscing about old times and laughing at shared memories, I realized that I had lost touch with the person I used to be, the girl who found joy in simple pleasures and cherished the love of her family and friends. With a heavy heart and a sense of longing for the life I had left behind, I made the decision to reclaim my authenticity. I sold the penthouse, the sports car, and all the other material possessions that had come to define my new life. In their place, I rediscovered the simple joys that had once brought me happiness. Long walks in the park, cozy nights at home with loved ones, and meaningful conversations that nourished the soul. As I sit here now, back in my humble apartment in the small town where I grew up, I am filled with a sense of peace that I haven't felt in a long time. I may no longer be the girl who won the lottery, but I am something far greater. I am Sophia Reynolds, a woman who has learned that true happiness comes from living an authentic life, true to myself and the values that have always guided me. And for that, I am eternally thankful. Story 3. I still remember the disbelief that washed over me as I checked and rechecked the numbers on my ticket, each one a promise of a life beyond my wildest dreams. My name is Emily Harrison, and that day marked the beginning of a journey that would change me in ways I never could have imagined. Growing up in a small town nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, my life was ordinary in every sense of the word. I lived in a small apartment, worked a 9-to-5 job at a local bookstore, and spent weekends exploring the nearby countryside with friends. It was a simple existence, but it was mine, and I cherished every moment of it. When I won the lottery jackpot, it felt like a cosmic joke. Me, Emily Harrison, a girl who had never been particularly lucky in life, suddenly holding the key to untold riches. The news spread like wildfire through the town, and soon, I was fielding calls from reporters and well-wishers alike, all eager to hear my story. With newfound wealth at my disposal, I set out to live the life I had always dreamed of. I bought a high-rise penthouse in the heart of the city, complete with panoramic views of the skyline and all the modern amenities one could imagine. I indulged in designer clothes, gourmet meals, and extravagant vacations to far-flung destinations around the world. For a while, it felt like I was living in a fairy tale. Everywhere I went, people marveled at my newfound wealth, showering me with compliments and invitations to exclusive events. I was the toast of the town, the girl who had it all, or so it seemed. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I began to realize that money couldn't buy happiness. Sure, it could buy luxury and comfort, but it couldn't fill the void that gnawed at my soul. The more I tried to fit into the mold of the wealthy elite, the more I felt like I was losing touch with who I truly was. I found myself surrounded by people who only seemed interested in my money, not in me as a person. They were drawn to the glamour and the glitz, but they had little interest in getting to know the real Emily, the girl who still loved curling up with a good book on a rainy day or going for long walks in the park with her dog. In my quest to live the life of my dreams, I had lost sight of the things that truly mattered to me: friendship, connection, and authenticity. I longed for the simplicity of my old life, where happiness wasn't measured in dollar signs but in moments of laughter and love shared with the people who mattered most to me. It was during a trip back to my hometown that the truth finally dawned on me. As I walked the familiar streets, greeted by the smiling faces of old friends and neighbors, I realized that I didn't need to change who I was to fit into the world of the wealthy elite. I didn't need fancy clothes or expensive cars to be happy. All I needed was to embrace the person I had always been, the girl who loved simple pleasures and cherished meaningful connections. With a newfound sense of clarity, I made the decision to let go of the trappings of wealth that had weighed me down for so long. I sold the penthouse, the designer clothes, and all the other material possessions that had come to define my new life. In their place, I reclaimed the simplicity and authenticity that had always been a part of who I was. As I sit here now, back in my old apartment in the small town where I grew up, I am filled with a sense of peace that I haven't felt in a long time. I may no longer be the girl who won the lottery, but I am something far greater. I am Emily Harrison, a woman who has learned that true happiness comes from living an authentic life, true to myself and the values that have always guided me. And for that, I am truly grateful. Story 4. It was a crisp autumn morning, the kind that carries the promise of change in the air. I woke up to the sound of my mother's excited voice echoing through the house, her words laced with disbelief and joy. "We won the lottery," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. I stumbled out of bed, my heart pounding with anticipation, and joined my family in the living room. There, amidst the scattered newspapers and half-empty coffee cups, lay the winning ticket, a beacon of hope shining brightly in the dim light. We huddled together, tears of joy streaming down our faces as we realized that our lives were about to change in ways we could never have imagined. Overnight, we went from struggling to make ends meet to living a life of luxury. We moved into a sprawling mansion, complete with a pool, tennis court, and even a home theater. Suddenly, there were no more worries about bills or debts. We traveled the world, indulging in the finest foods and accommodations money could buy. Every whim and desire was ours to fulfill, and we lived each day as if it were a dream. But as time went on, I began to notice a change in my family. Despite our newfound wealth, there was a growing distance between us, a rift that seemed to widen with each passing day. We spent less time together, our conversations becoming superficial and empty. It was as if the very thing that had brought us together had also driven us apart. One evening, as I sat alone in my lavish bedroom, surrounded by opulence but feeling more alone than ever, I realized the true cost of our fortune. Money had brought us everything we thought we wanted, but it had also taken something precious from us, the closeness and love that had once defined our family. Determined to reclaim what we had lost, I called a family meeting, gathering my parents and siblings together in the living room just like when we had celebrated our lottery win all those months ago. I spoke from the heart, tears of regret and longing filling my eyes as I confessed my fears and doubts. To my surprise, my family listened, their own eyes glistening with unshed tears. We spoke openly and honestly, sharing our hopes and dreams, as well as our fears and insecurities. And in that moment of vulnerability, something miraculous happened. We rediscovered the bond that had always been there, buried beneath the trappings of wealth and privilege. From that day forward, we made a conscious effort to prioritize what truly mattered to each other. We scaled back our extravagant lifestyle, opting instead for simple pleasures and meaningful experiences. We spent lazy afternoons picnicking in the park, laughing and joking as we once had. We volunteered at local charities, giving back to those less fortunate than ourselves. And most importantly, we made time for each other, cherishing the moments we shared as a family. As the years passed, our wealth dwindled, but our love and connection only grew stronger. We may not have had the riches we once did, but we had something far more valuable, each other. And in the end, that was worth more than all the money in the world. Looking back on our journey, I realize now that winning the lottery was both a blessing and a curse. It gave us everything we thought we wanted, only to take away the very thing we needed most. But in losing ourselves, we found each other, and for that, I will be forever grateful. Money may come and go, but the love of family is priceless. If you enjoyed these stories, please like and subscribe. It would really help us upload more stories to the channel.